Hello, FewCandy here, and welcome back to Vanilla County. And last time out, we built this fishing harbour here, layered on the banks of Tyler. Yeah, I really like how this turned out, particularly the little trick with the tiles, using that to create a kind of retaining wall, instead of having to flood the area and use keys. So yeah, some nice little ideas in that, and really like how this sits with the layers and the different offices mixed in amongst the industrial, a little bit of commercial as well, greenery at different ends. Yeah, really enjoying that kind of vibe. And I think it will look even better once we get in this banked rail line that we're going to have running along here as soon as we have unlocked trains. But for today, we're going to head back over here to this mess that we made in episode 1, and we're going to sort this out. We're going to give ourselves a really nice service area, complete with power, sewage treatment, and also garbage disposal, a household waste facility, if you like. And if we do just go ahead and have a look at our power supply, we're quite close to the edge. We've got a little bit of leeway, actually. It keeps jumping around a little bit for some unknown reason, but we're reasonably close. So we want to kind of beef up the power supply that we've got here. And at the moment, we've only got 2 coal power plants and then the advanced coal power plant as well, none of which create a huge amount of electricity. So we definitely want to build on that. So I'm going to be hitting pause for this because we're going to be demolishing all of our city service buildings out here. So we want them to come back. But because we're so cash rich in the city at the moment, I'm not kind of worried about destroying all of the different industrial buildings and service buildings that we have in here, because we'll get them back. And actually, I'm not going to destroy the bus depot for the moment. I'm actually just going to move that because I don't want to forget to put it back in, because this is the area we have chosen for that, obviously. So let's go ahead and delete out our road connections. We will hook it back into our speedy ring road afterwards, but we'll just leave it like that for now. And of course, I have just gone ahead and removed all of the trees. Really good idea to do that before you start, particularly in the vanilla game, because they're going to count still towards your tree count, even if they're under buildings or under roads. And probably make the game lag a little bit in later stages, so always a good idea to remove those. So what I would like is the power station ultimately over this side. We're just going to take a little look at terrain, and we're pretty flat here. We're not too bad, apart from this corner where it starts to slope down. So what I'm wondering is if we can just flatten it out a tiny bit more. You can see we've pushed this up a little bit to create a little bit of a bank there. I don't mind this kind of subtle texture, and we'll come in with some trees and a bit of detailing around that as well to help blend that in. I think that's okay for now. So yeah, what we're going to do is bring the power plant in over this side. So what I would quite like is a big kind of main road for it. So I'd like this to be parallel to this road. So I'm going to bring out a guide road here. And this is going to feed in this way over there. And then what we can do is just bring this across and join it into our road that will actually connect onto this one. So we'll get rid of the guide road for now. And now we know that that is super parallel to this straight part of our collector. So I think we can trim this off just a tiny bit, bring it back a little bit further, and then we'll just create a small section like this for now. Because what I would like as the kind of main entrance into our power station area is the oil main building. And the reason for this, if you have seen the last episode, is actually that we did put in the seafood factory over here, as you may remember, and that requires plastics. So what we're going to want to do is, and we've also got some warehouses over here that are ready to take plastics to help supply it. So what we're going to want to do is create an area which is generating plastics within this power plant. That's what I'd like to do here. So we actually just move this over a little bit further. Yeah, we can get those main entrance gates in line with this main entrance road, which I really quite like the look of. And then I think actually with this one, what we can do is bring this up to join into this road here. So we'll continue the road on like that. And then if we bring one out straight from there, we should be able to curve this nicely in, go a little bit more freeform with it like that. And that'll then meet up to the collector. So we'll have the power station on this side, and then we'll have sewage treatment over here and garbage disposal as well in their own kind of little areas so that it feels quite realistic. So what I'll do from here is start drawing out a road guidelines around the main entrance to our oil. So we'll come back to the oil area in just a second. I'm actually thinking for roads, let's go ahead and use the industrial ones because they'll give her a nicer, sort of slightly rougher effect to our industrial area. So we can actually start using that, I think, right from this entrance road here. We'll leave this as a normal one. I don't think that'll hurt there. So just thinking about our main power supplies before we come onto the oil element, like I definitely like to use this advanced coal power plant. I think it's an absolutely gorgeous power plant asset and a great addition to the game. And what I'm thinking is we could put it somewhere relatively front of stage when you come into the city. So I'm wondering if it could go in this back corner over here. Because then, yeah, from the ring road, you can see this quite nicely, the chimney kind of stack on it. And also from the road. I'm wondering if actually a better orientation would be to turn it around. Yeah, I like that. So you can see the chimney stack in the front, and then as you pass here, you can actually see some of those coal piles in the front of it. And yeah, so a bit more of the building is visible that way. And again, from the ring road as well, you're getting quite a nice view of that. So yeah, happy with that placement there. So I was thinking we could repeat this and keep going with a big coal power plant essentially like that. But actually, I'm pretty reluctant to put in too many of those because I feel like they're very kind of, especially in vanilla where you can't unlock the fences and make it into a bigger complex a bit more naturally. It feels like one very solid asset all by itself. And I think by putting in repeated patterns of it, it may be a little excessive. So what I'm thinking is a nice addition to it would be to bring in some of these geothermal power plants here. And again, what I'm thinking is we could bring in 2 of these and that will be quite a lot of power because, again, if we think we're replacing our coal power plants, which produce 40, these produce 80 each. So that's going to essentially double the production that we had previously. And we want to get quite a lot of power in here ultimately because, yeah, we don't want to have to come back and do another power source anytime soon, really. So I do quite like how those two sit up next to each other. And again, with the repeated pattern with these, I don't really mind it too much. I think it feels a little bit more natural than having to do of the giant coal power plants. I'm happy with that. But let's just have a think about the other assets we're going to be bringing into here. So I mentioned oil. Let's go ahead actually and extend out our industry area. And we'll do it across this whole side of the complex here to give us flexibility in where we're going to place these assets. Now, we don't have oil resource here. As I mentioned previously, the only real oil resource on the map is this tiny bit in the hills over here, which we're not going to unlock that tile for quite a while. So in order to get oil in and to be able to produce plastics, what we need is to use some of the crude oil storage tanks or any of the other storage that we have within the game here. And this will then start importing raw oil for us. So if we go into that and if we actually change this to fill, that's going to start bringing in oil from outside. So you can see here it can be imported and can be exported. We're not interested in exporting it. We want to bring it in. So we're going to say fill with that and we're going to start importing that from outside. And then obviously alongside this, we need to actually turn this into the plastic. So we're going to use a production building here. So at the moment, we've only got petroleum. So what I'm going to do is actually span down 2 of these here. And we're going to need to play the game a little bit to level up our oil area so that we can unlock the plastics building. So I think it unlocks at the next one. So yeah, have a level 2 oil industry area. So for that, we're going to need to get in workers, which might be tight because we have quite a high residential demand here, but also exporting units of this. So it's going to be the petroleum for us. So this is going to take quite a while to level up. So I'm going to come back to this in a second. We're going to finish that off. But before that, to be able to press play, I do need to put in our garbage and sewage treatment. So let's go ahead and have a little look at that. So I'm thinking for sewage treatment, what I would like is something that's relatively parallel to this road. So I'm going to bring out a connection there. Don't mind if that bends a little bit at the end. We'll delete this out because we don't want that connecting in. And actually, for the sake of this, I will continue that highway on because we may go back further this way. We probably will. So we'll just go like that for now. And now we know that this part of the road is nice and parallel to this one as well. So we'll get some nice setups in here. So coming into sewage treatment, I do like to use the inland one. So we have unlocked the eco one, but the drain capacity on that is actually, you can see there's 60,000 in the bottom corner. This is 120,000. So at the moment, this is definitely more economically efficient to be using these ones. So we're going to go ahead and place in a couple of these and create a small area out of it. I think sewage treatment is going to have to be something that we come back to once we've unlocked more of those assets later in the game. But for now, this will do fine. And actually 2 of them is giving us plenty of capacity there. We don't really need to go ahead and have any more. But I'm going to add in another one just for longevity's sake here. And actually I am thinking because of that capacity, maybe we can, just to shake it up a little bit, add in one of the eco water treatment plants. And actually if we move it onto this corner, that might create quite a nice entrance into our complex there. So I'm thinking around the back of this, what we'll do is bring in actually a dirt road as a bit of a kind of service road to round the back of these clarifiers, is it? I think that's a technical term for them. I think it just helps with the detailing a little bit to make it feel a bit more cohesive. So you've got a little dirt access road round the back here, as well as obviously being able to access through the front side bits. And I am wondering in here, actually, if we could add in the road maintenance depot as a little bit of a sort of admin building to the front of it. So I think we will do that. And how big is it? So it is only 4 units deep. So if we come back in with our industrial road, let's move this just for a second. Let's come back in with our industrial road going behind where the road maintenance depot will be. And let's add this back in here and then see what it looks like when we have this in as a big admin building at the front here, which I do quite enjoy, although I think the orientation of it could be quite a lot better. So let's actually reformat this again until we get it to a position that we like. Okay, so I have decided to go with this kind of look. Actually, I've gone a little bit overboard with the sewage that we have here. But so what we are going to do is go through and turn several of these off. So I think we'll turn all of those off for now because we've got absolutely more than we need right now. But always good to do this because then we're not going to need sewage for quite a long time, I would suggest, in our city. So we won't need to put in another sewage area or come back and try and amend this area either. So I think that'll be a good thing. So yeah, I decided to actually set this back a little bit and put a couple of car parks in front of it. And then we've got our dirt roads as access roads around the back of these 2 of the back-to-back eco water treatment plants there. I think works pretty nicely. And then we've got 5 of these in a big row. So as you're driving up the highway, we'll obviously put in fencing and some detailing, a bit of barrier here. But it's quite a nice industrial look, I think, especially coming up to those geothermal power plants and the big coal power plant tower in the back there too. So that's the kind of general overall shape of our sewage treatment plant, obviously detailing to put in later. And then what I'd like to do here is connect it up to another road, which will sit coming off this way. And we'll try and get this into a nice smooth connection here. Okay, so that's a little bit smoother. It means some of the zoning is going to be a little bit dodgy here, but I'm not too concerned with that. Because what I do want to bring in is some service buildings into here. So I would quite like to have police and fire around this complex, particularly close to the industrial as well. What we've got over this side is always a good idea to have. Now we do have a fire station actually in our Brick Lane bakery over there, but we don't have police anywhere. So I think that's very much needed. But I think we will also bring in another firehouse just to add to that. So we can actually sit that on that corner, which I quite enjoy actually. Yeah, I don't mind that. So we can definitely bring out some detailing around this. I'm thinking extra car parks potentially. So we could even go back into maybe a secure car park actually next to the police station would be quite nice here. So we could use one of the Railroads of Japan ones, for example. Yeah, the one thing that annoys me about these is the fact that in vanilla, we always get this little bit of concrete tearing on them. If you're in modded and you've got move it, just raise it up 1 click with a page up or move it and it sorts itself out. But yeah, annoyingly in vanilla, there's nothing we can do about that. But yeah, I quite like the secure car park behind the police station idea there. And then, of course, we can also bring in our bus station to this as well. So I'm thinking it might be nice to line that up to the back here and then bring in, again, more car parking around this. I'm thinking for staff, etc. So we could actually use the slightly larger Railroads of Japan car park across the road from this. Yeah, I quite like that aesthetic. And then, of course, we'll bring in some detailing, etc. around that just to bring that all together there. And then what would be good for the end of this road is actually just to hook it back into this connector here. Again, so we've got multiple ways for the cars to get around. Always helps, I think. So if we just do a bend like that, we can do a bit of detailing around it and hopefully that will look quite nice come the end. So just before we press play, we do also need garbage facilities, which I'm actually going to do over in this area here. I know it is quite close to the residential, but if we just take a little look, like you see, a landfill here is not going to impede on them unless we're right next to our graveyards, which they're not going to be. They're going to be over this side, close to the highway. It's really not going to impede actually on that area in terms of the noise pollution or the pollution, particularly for the recycling centre, which has a smaller radius actually for it, which we'll be using mostly here. So in terms of access, we can hook them into the ring road, which we will absolutely do. So let's bring out a connection here. We'll just bring out a small connection like that for now. And then I also want to hook them into this road because this will actually, you'll see actually I've upgraded this to a 4-lane street most of the way up here. This is going to be another fast route. Again, an alternative to the highway, which takes people towards the downtown, towards the suburbs outside of the downtown. So ideally this will probably be like a big collector road like this, but actually because we've got the compact 4-lane roads, I think this will work quite nicely for that. We'll have a little bit of zoning in certain places, as you can see like here along this road, but there won't be anything major. So we'll try and keep it as clear as we can like this collector here. But yeah, if we hook it up into that, then it will have easy access for the garbage into the suburb here, down to the fishing harbour and then on up into further districts. But also across into the industrial district, they just come down the ring road here and then they can get up and access all of this. So I think this is quite a nice central place to be having a garbage facility. So I'm going to bring the road down like that and then across here. I want this to all be nice and parallel and working really nicely. So we'll just connect this up with a small curve there. So that's all good and smooth. And then we can start laying out our garbage area. So first and foremost, I would like a lot of parking up the front here, and I think I've come too close for that, so let's just redraw that. So I'm then going to bring this road up and round down the back of those car parks there, and of course I've forgotten to clear out the trees, so let's go ahead and do that. And we'll want quite a lot of trees, I think, around this to block the pollution and block the noise pollution as well. But it won't be close enough to the housing, like I said, to interfere with anything like that. We do need to be careful of the water tower here, which I think we'll probably move. We'll definitely move, in fact, before we hit play. So yeah, right opposite this, I'm going to have a recycling centre. So we're just going to place that in nice and simply there. And we want to have a couple of these. So what I'm actually thinking for this opening area is a little bit of a repeated pattern. I'm going for another recycling centre this side, along with another large car park opposite it as well, so that people can come and park up and then dump their recycling as they see fit. And then what we'll do down this end is bring out a couple of connections like this that we can sit our landfill sites against. So I'm hoping we're going to be able to get in 2 in here, which we can, but we're going to disturb the power line, so we'll fix that again in a second. We just have 2 of those like that. Again, it's not the nicest view for the road, but we'll cover that up with trees, and I think we can get that to look quite good. Now, it is tough in vanilla to get enough garbage processing to satisfy your city. So we have got this eco-friendly incinerator plant, which is absolutely massive, but it has absolutely no pollution involved in it, which I really quite like. And I'm wondering if we can sit this in here without it looking too completely strange. And this one comes with the Heart of Career Content Creator Pack. So if you haven't got that, please do consider checking out my Instant Gaming link in the description below. It's actually a really amazing content creator pack. It took me quite a lot by surprise, actually. The assets are beautiful and really diverse, and there's an awful lot of them as well in that pack, so really worth picking up that one. I will admit I'm struggling a little bit with the placement of this, so I think what we're actually going to do instead is we're going to bring in our recycling centre over this side. I think we'll remove this road here and this one there and this one there. And we're going to just pull this one over here, and then we'll move this one up against this road. And I'm hoping we can still squeeze the road down the middle. Yes, which we can. And I feel like just being slightly more in the centre of this complex makes a little bit more sense. It's a bit jarring. It's a bit jarring. I think I'm not too opposed to that. I think I'm not too opposed to that. What it might mean is actually moving these slightly further back. Yeah, I think giving it a bit more breathing room around the edge is definitely the way forward there, just moving those back slightly. So coming back to our recycling centres, we do want a few more of these, I think, in. If I just bring this road across there, then we can have a couple in back to back is what I'm thinking for this. So like that, not too opposed to that kind of look. And then let's just trim off those roads there. And could in fact even move this one over slightly and potentially get a second one in here, which we can. So yeah, that looks like a sort of smaller processing area for the larger garbage stuff that's going on this side. I think what it does need is a few more buildings around it. I'm thinking like office admin would be appropriate for this. This definitely looks like a warehouse kind of style yard here. So let's actually bring in an airport apron if we can around here. Or we can just. And create ourselves a little bit of a kind of storage plaza area out the back there. And then what we'll want to do is bring in a little bit of office zoning, not mass zoning, just some smaller buildings, I think, into here. And we'll see what we can come up with this. Maybe even mixed in with a little small amount of generic industry in here would be quite nice. So let's see what we get there once we press play, which I think we are now okay to do, bar moving that water tower, of course. So I'm actually thinking up here by the farm would be quite a nice area for it. We just connect it in there because we've got one actually in the other side, which I'd snuck in there. So having two either side, that'd be quite a nice effect, supplying each side of the highway. But we will come in and replace those once we unlock the larger water tower, which I think is a much nicer aesthetic. And of course, we could do a facility along the coast using the water pump, which would actually be much more efficient for us to do. So we will investigate that in future. Okay, but we can hit play now because we have got everything in. Let's just make sure the city isn't screaming. And what I am actually going to do is just going to jump into a little detailing time lapse to detail up our sewage area and our service area now while we wait for our oil area to hopefully upgrade to level 2. We need a lot of workers and a lot of resources in here in order to do that. So let's get on with the detailing and then see where we get to so that we can finish our power plant area. Okay, so we have reached level 2 oil area while I was doing all of that detailing. But yeah, let's just run down what we've got here. So I did actually decide to put a little kind of cafe, well, barbecue, heat and chill out here. A few tables around with a little garden as well. From the new Hotels and Retreats DLC, there's some really cute little tiny parks there, which I just thought would be a nice addition in amongst all of this crazy industry. Somewhere for the workers to go for their lunchtime. So yeah, we've just added in oil fence all the way around this, which I thought was the nicest thing from this road. And I'm really quite enjoying this look, actually, with just a few little trees lining it here, looking through to the sewage treatment. And then in and around these, I have managed to squeeze in quite a lot of undergrowth and a few little bushes here or there. So don't be afraid to try that out, because a lot of these actually sit almost within the asset frame, but you can sneak in a few of them at the back. So really like how that's kind of come out, looking a little bit more overgrown, going down these gravel tracks around the edge. And that's just repeated all the way around here. Used a little bit of nature reserve path as well to fill this gap in the middle there, just giving it a slightly more dirty look. Same goes for here as well. Purely decorative, completely non-functional. Yeah, I like how that complex has come out. And then over here by the bus yard, I haven't done too much here other than add in a little yard into here, which I thought could be bus storage. I was wondering, because we don't have any bus props obviously within the vanilla game, I was wondering if we could get away with the closed up food truck and having a few of these lying around as a bit of a kind of almost delivery, smaller style bus, more local style bus. And then that at least would give us the effect of this is a yard for those buses to go. I know they're not actually buses, but I wonder if that works. The ground is a little dodgy there, so we have to kind of look away slightly. But I don't mind that too much. And actually the same thought just occurred to me over here as well, where I've done this big yard and I've managed to put in a few little props here or there, but actually we could use some of these potentially as sort of delivery trucks. If we try and hide the side of them a little bit, line a few of these up, maybe have one going in the wrong way like that so that we don't necessarily see the food truck sign. I wonder if that gives us a nice vibe. You can let me know in the comments what you think of that. It's a bit of a dodgy vanilla detailing aspect, but I want something in these big empty yard spaces. I do quite like the effect of that big concrete there. Skipping around though a little bit, but yeah, coming back to here, we've just fenced in that area. Not really done too much with this. Really disappointing about this asset sinking into the ground like that, but we just brought in some trees and overgrowth around it, which sort of frames it in quite nicely, I think, there. And then, yes, coming over to this monster waste processing facility, it's growing on me. If we look back to our starting highway entrance here, I'm quite enjoying this with all the chimneys. Well, one singular large chimney either side and all of the steam coming out there. And then you've obviously got the big wind turbines as you come on through and then the farm on that side. I think it's all right. It's quite dominant in the landscape, but it's a pretty cool building. So yeah, I've just been selective about the assets that have come in here. So we've got a couple of little industrial ones, a few offices and another industrial one over there. Lined it all up with fencing and also added in this pathway which runs through onto the main collector. Lots of people using that actually to come to and from this area. And then I did this little overgrowth bit. So I did some random path patterns, which you can do with either vanilla pavement or the gravel path, because they're very slightly smaller than the park life paths. And then I upgraded it to nature reserve to give it that slightly more rough look and added in some overgrowth around it. So it sort of looks like a slightly unused yard area there. And then not really a lot down this side, just a couple of additional industrial buildings, a one-by-one asset there, which has some kind of cute props when you get them in right. So yeah, enjoying that, but just fenced off the area to make it feel a little bit more appropriate. So let's come back and finish off our power plant, shall we? So we want to get rid of some of this petroleum. So I ended up spamming down 4 actually to get this done. We definitely don't want that much. I'm quite keen to actually still produce petroleum. I don't mind that too much, but let's just for now delete all of those because the focus really must be on plastics. So we have now unlocked the petrochemical plant, which produces plastics, which is exactly what we wanted. So we're going to want a few of these in here. And these can actually be paired really nicely with the oil sludge pyrolysis plants if we're kind of careful about asset placement on these. So what I'm thinking here actually is let's flip this around. And we'll fit it in there. And then those two kind of side on, I don't mind too much. And then we should be able to squeeze in one of the small oil sludge plants into this corner here, which we can. So quite enjoying that. And then what we do want to do with this road is bring this one back out as well. So I'm thinking we'll just connect it up there. And then this is where at the back of this we can do some nice kind of almost vanilla fusing and have this sitting at the back of it. So it looks like a bit of an extension onto the back of the petrochemical plant there. But with the focus being plastic, I do want to put in another one. So let's see if we can squeeze in a third one here. This is probably going to be the main source of our oil for this area. So it's a lot of chimneys. It's a lot of chimneys, a lot of heavy industry. But I don't mind that too much. And because we've got so much oil here, I think it would be silly not to bring in the oil power plant as well. So I would like to do that, I'm thinking here, but let's give it slightly more prominence by bringing it just slightly further away from the road, like this. And then we can add that in there. Now that brings it up very, very close to our slip ramps. If we get a bit of fencing in there, I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be okay. We could bring this slightly further closer. So there we go, we have kind of packed that in. It's slightly further away from this slip rack now, which gives us a little bit more space to put in the fence there. Now this is full, so I'm thinking it should be able to feed these quite nicely. So let's just put this back to balance to make sure that it is going out to our different plants here. And what I'm thinking as well is a little bit of warehousing may not go amiss here so that we can store our plastics and our petroleum products. We could, of course, add in another storage unit. This is also the other option that we do have here as well, which may be quite a good idea. We see how that fits in. I really do like this asset, actually, the crude oil storage cavern with all the pipes and things. I think it's got a very, very nice aesthetic to it. So I'm wondering if we now bring out this road here, can we fit a couple of warehouses in either side here? And yes, we can. And this one actually fits in perfectly into that space. So I think we can't really deny ourselves that. I think what I will do is just trim this road back slightly, just so it's lining up to the edge of the concrete there and not extending over. Let's get rid of grid snap and then we can perfectly place it up to the edge of the concrete. So that's nice and square there now. So let's assign this now to petroleum and one to plastics. And then we can also fly back over here and turn on our seafood factory. Let's ramp up the production to 150%. And hopefully we'll start to get some plastics over here. So we'll see how that goes. I'm actually going to put the plastics one here to empty so that they're not taking it to this warehouse and would rather take it over to where our seafood factory is. So we'll see how we get on with that. If we just look in terms of power consumption, we're way, way, way over what we need. In fact, about 200 over. So what I'm actually going to do is turn off both of the geothermal power plants for now. So we'll have those just sitting inactive, rather like our sewage. So as soon as we need it, we can start to turn those on. And then what we do need to do is come in with a little bit of tidying up. But now, of course, this being a major power plant, we definitely want to have parking in here. So I think what we will actually do is go for a couple of the Railroads of Japan car parks here, which are sitting quite nicely, just two of them like that. So I think that kind of completes our complex. I don't think there's anything else that we really necessarily need to get into here. We could potentially put in a small office over here as another kind of administration building, as well as our main building that we have here. But I'm not that inclined to do it. There is also the workers' barracks as well, which will increase efficiency for our oil area. But again, I'm not too concerned with that because we really only need plastics for this one factory at the moment. As time goes on, we may need to expand it a little bit or produce another small oil area for plastic production. But for now, this seems to be working all right. And actually, if I press escape, you'll see our little warnings on those buildings have gone. So they're definitely all getting oil here. It's all being imported correctly for them to use. So yeah, I think it is now time to just come in and detail up this area. So we have the last piece of the puzzle for today, all in. It's kind of like 3 mini builds all in one really, wasn't it? But yeah, this seems to be working really nicely. We've actually got, if I just show you, lots and lots of petroleum being stored up here, which is great to see. And actually this is empty from plastic, so that emptying function is definitely working. And we've got lots of plastics being stored down here, as well as our fish seafood factory doing really well. Although I have noticed it's exporting luxury goods. I'm not sure how luxurious fish and plastic actually is, but yeah, okay. It's making lots and lots and lots of money, and the city is doing really well financially. We've got 4 million in the bank and only 8,000 population. Mainly because it's taken me so long to do things, probably. But it's all working nice and efficiently, which is great to see. So let's just have a look. There's not really too much that I've done here. I've added in a little hedge border around our car parks, which I thought was a nice touch in there. A little bit of gravel pathing around the geothermal power plants, again with some undergrowth snuck in between the assets there. I quite like the aesthetic of the gravel going round because it matches the gravel surface that we've got at the back of the assets here, and also provides like a bit of access way, I suppose, for workers to get back there for maintenance purposes. And then really I have just fenced off the whole complex, so you'll see the oil fence running down here. And one thing that's really nice about these assets is that the fence actually snaps into the existing oil fence that is around here. So we've just done that around the whole complex, and I think that's turned out pretty nice. And then we've just got a little bit of, kind of make it look a little bit dirty, nature reserve path here. I did also add in an access path for people coming to and from the trolley bus stop, which is right here. And I noticed that this junction was getting quite busy, so to help out the cars, and actually it's good because I can't see anyone currently using those crossings there, I did add in this pedestrian bridge, so hopefully they'll favour using that, which these guys are not. Never mind. But we have got the pedestrian bridge in there, so we can't stop them from crossing here, but hopefully that'll funnel away some of the traffic that was going through this junction and getting it a little bit busy. But yeah, there we go. We have got in a mega power complex, a mega sewage treatment plant, as well as obviously lots and lots of garbage facility here too. So we should be pretty well set up to keep expanding the city for quite a long time now. And please do let me know your name suggestions, particularly for our power plant over here, but also the garbage processing sewage. If you've got any nice suggestions for those, please do let me know in the comments below. But for today, that is going to be it. So if you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are greatly, greatly appreciated. And I'd love to keep hearing your suggestions for what else to put into the city. So keep them coming in the comments below. And thank you so much for the support on the series so far. My first venture into vanilla seems to be pretty well received. So thank you all, and welcome to all the new people to the channel. But that's all from me for now. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye.